at the very base where the nectar is produced, and then there are two kinds of, I'm just trying to tease them apart. There's one that's got a little dangly bit at the end that secretes the pollen,
which we can see actually brushing off onto your finger.
Oh, can you? You've got sharp eyes. Then we've got the female organ in the middle.
The big sort of more golden one.
Yep. So that is where the pollen will end up, and the insect will go in there thinking, of course, it's a lovely drink, and then as it comes out, inadvertently, it'll move the pollen onto its body, and it'll go off to another flower and transfer the pollen to another flower, so you get the diversity.
I suppose whenever you walk past flowers, in somebody's garden or in the shops, you don't necessarily think that you're actually just looking at the plant's sexual reproductive organs, but that's essentially what they're doing. They're just flashing their wares,
right.
aren't they?
That's right, yeah. Flowering is desperately important for plants. It's the basis of plant life, and if we didn't have plants, we wouldn't be around very long unless we lived entirely on fish.
So while flowers might just be decorative to you and me, for the plants, they're calling cards, attracting pollinators like insects or bats, which help them to reproduce. And as we'll hear throughout this episode, different species have developed a range of different strategies for ensuring that they can get enough sex, and some of these are rather ingenious. Like, for example, the approach of the corpse flower, and luckily for me, they've got one in the greenhouse.
This is a tropical growing on house where the minimum temperature is 16 degrees by night and 18 by day. And just beside us are some young titanarums, I would say 3 or 4 years old, and round about 2030 they should come into flower, which is a very exciting thing. The titanarum has adopted a strategy of out-stinking and out-flowering any other plant in the forest of Sumatra where it comes from. It grows an immense tuber, and then when it's ready to flower, up it sends the biggest flower in the world. It's actually a cluster of flowers, but it's still pretty enormous, up to 3 meters or more high. And then it has the most amazing properties that it can heat itself and generate temperatures to about 37 degrees centigrade, which volatilizes the horrible stinky sulfur compounds that it uses to attract insects. And
that's how they do it.
You and I might be rather repelled by it, but carrion flies and carrion beetles think it's absolutely wonderful. What a fantastic dinner. So they make their way across the forest and feast on this plant. It's a very clever plant. The female flowers are at the bottom and the male flowers are at the top, and they mature at different times, so it has to cross-pollinate. The insects pick up the pollen, then they look for another arum lily elsewhere in the forest that might be quite a long way away, but being insects, they're highly mobile and they can fly and carry the pollen to the other one. And the flowers only last for a day because it's such a pungent flower and so